Back in 2018, there were two news stories, each about a different baby, and each of the babies in Great Britain. The first one was about a royal baby. Prince William and Kate were about to have their third baby. It was going to be a baby boy, and Kate gave birth to a healthy baby boy, Louis Arthur Charles, but you don't have to call him Louis Arthur Charles. They said you can call him His Royal Highness Prince Louis of Cambridge, if you ever happen to meet him while you're out and about. So that was the first story. The second news story was about another baby, not a royal baby, not born to the royal family, a baby named Alfie Evans. And Alfie was a little bit older. Alfie was born in 2016. But shortly after Alfie was born, Alfie's mom noticed that something wasn't quite right. The eyes didn't seem to be tracking in the way that you would expect, and Alfie would sleep for long periods of time, like unusual for a newborn. And then Alfie started having seizures, and things kept going and progressing in a very bad way, very, very quickly until Alfie became comatose and had to be put on a breathing machine just to keep Alfie alive. And that's the doctors in Great Britain worked on Alfie for over a year, trying to do everything that they could to figure out what was going on with Alfie. But finally, the doctors came to the conclusion there is nothing more that we can do for Alfie, and they said to the parents, "We think it's time to take Alfie off the breathing machine and just let Alfie die." But the parents didn't want to do that. They wanted to continue to look for other options, and so they started going to other countries, and they ended up finding a doctor in Italy who was willing to work with them with some different types of treatment to try to keep Alfie alive. But by then, the medical community in Great Britain had taken the family to court, and to try to get them to force the family to take the breathing machine off of Alfie. And because the courts in Great Britain typically give more weight to the medical community than they do to the wishes of parents, eventually the court ordered that Alfie's breathing machine should be removed, and that's what happened. And Alfie ended up dying because of that, but not because the parents wanted that to happen. And just a very, very sad story. And as I heard both those two stories together, it made me wonder, maybe it makes you wonder too, if the courts of Great Britain would have made the same decision, if it wasn't Alfie Evans on the breathing machine, but it was His Royal Highness Prince Louis of Cambridge instead, would they still have told the parents, well, you have to remove this breathing machine because it's not worth it anymore for the child? It kind of leads to the question of what does a person's life need to look like, or what needs to be happening in that life, or what is the determining factor for determining that this person's life is valuable enough that it is worth everybody's greatest love and greatest time and greatest attention? Because people obviously know how to make that decision. They make those decisions in a number of different ways. And I want you to think about how you would answer that question by thinking about, firstly, your own life. And think about the last time that you maybe felt like Alfie's parents did, kind of helpless and broken and at a loss for what they should be doing, confused, betrayed, any number of things. Think about the last time you went through any type of suffering. Think about any suffering that you see in the world today. The extreme poverty, extreme sickness, extreme pain, sometimes happening in very massive scales in certain places. And I want you to think about what you would say, not to the medical community, but to God, to try to convince God that either you or whoever you identify as somebody in the world who is going through the most pain, who is going through the most suffering, that they are worthy of His greatest time and His greatest attention. I have some good news for you. You don't actually have to spend any time trying to convince God that you or anybody else is worthy of all the greatest gifts that He can give. Because I want you to realize how God already looks at you. This is from the book of 1 Peter, where it says, "But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood," your royalty, "a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of Him who called you out of darkness into His wonderful light. Once you were not a people, but now you are the people of God. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy." This week, as we consider the topic of suffering, we will look at the particular ways that God is merciful to us and the particular comforts that we find when we look at Jesus, the one through whom God is especially merciful to us all.
Do you struggle to find time to connect with God? Well, click here to subscribe to our daily email. We'll make sure that you hear about God's promises, His love, and His amazing word.